Tim Conway's extraordinary career spanned 6 decades in the entertainment industry, and during that time, he left an indelible mark on television, film, and the hearts of countless fans around the world. His impact was not limited to the numerous characters he brought to life, but it also extended to the way he influenced future generations of comedians with his impeccable timing and unique sense of humor. In this comprehensive account, we will explore every significant detail of his life and career, as well as examine the struggles and triumphs that marked his final days. Along the way, we will add deeper analysis, historical context, and reflections from people who knew him, ensuring we neither omit nor diminish any aspect of the original narrative. This piece aims to provide a richly detailed tapestry of who Tim Conway was, both on and off the screen, and it aspires to do so in a way that engages you, much like a warm, conversational documentary, one befitting a tribute on a YouTube channel dedicated to celebrating the timeless legacy of show business legends. Tim Conway's career achievements. Throughout his 6-decade spanning career in show business, the late American actor, comedian, director, and writer Tim Conway appeared in more than 100 television shows and films. Some of his most memorable roles included portraying the hapless Ensign Parker in the 1960s World War II-era sitcom McHale's Navy, and several recurring iconic characters on the Carol Burnett Show, such as Mr. Tudball, the Dumb Private, and the Oldest Man. These personas were brought to life through Conway's distinctive comedic style, which combined a gentle delivery with impeccable timing. His willingness to commit fully to a bit, often involving contorted facial expressions, awkward physical gags, and an almost childlike sense of mischief, won him legions of fans. For his work on the Carol Burnett Show, Conway ended up winning 4 Emmys. His relationship with the show's cast, especially with Carol Burnett and Harvey Korman, was famed for its on-set hilarity. Many fans remember the show's outtakes or unrehearsed moments where Conway's improvisations and deadpan deliveries made his co-stars break character into uproarious laughter. Behind the scenes, Conway reportedly enjoyed testing the limits of how long it would take before Burnett or Korman would crack a smile, proving that his comedic instincts were every bit as formidable in private as they were on television. On several occasions, Conway was given his own television show. In 1970, he teamed up with his old McHale's Navy co-star Joe Flynn to create the aptly titled sitcom, The Tim Conway Show. After that series ended following a brief run from January to June of 1970, he went on to host the variety shows The Tim Conway Comedy Hour and The Tim Conway Comedy House. Although they did not achieve the same long-lasting success as some of his other projects, these programs showcased Conway's range as both a host and a comedic writer. Years later, in 1980, Conway was given yet another one-hour variety series, titled once again The Tim Conway Show. This series lasted longer than any of his previous self-titled series, and wrapped up in August 1981. On the big screen, the Ohio native frequently co-starred with Don Knotts in films like The Apple Dumpling Gang, The Prize Fighter, and The Private Eyes. The dynamic duo of Conway and Knotts became a staple in family-friendly comedies throughout the 1970s and early 1980s, noted for their affable chemistry and light-hearted storytelling. Their comedic styles complemented each other well. Knotts' anxious, excitable energy paired with Conway's calm yet mischievous persona, resulting in an almost Laurel and Hardy-like appeal. Beyond these highlights, many people who encountered Conway in this era remember how he remained humble despite his success. He was said to be approachable and always ready with a joke, whether on a film set or at a Hollywood party. Friends and associates from this period would also talk about his generosity, noting how he would offer guidance to younger comedians who sought his advice. Yet for Conway, the 1970s and early 1980s were just part of a broader journey that included significant turns in voiceover, guest appearances on various TV specials, and eventually the creation of his much-loved Dorf character. Voiceover work and health challenges. Over the years, Conway did a considerable amount of voiceover work in animated series, such as Scooby-Doo, The Simpsons, The Wild Thornberrys, and The Proud Family. Younger viewers might recall that he provided the voice of Barnacle Boy in the SpongeBob SquarePants animated series. This role showcased Conway's exceptional capacity to entertain audiences across multiple generations, while older fans remembered his comedic stints on variety shows and sitcoms. A new, younger audience discovered him as the underwater sidekick to Mermaid Man in the whimsical world of SpongeBob. While providing dialogue for the 2015 animated film The SpongeBob Movie, Sponge Out of Water, Conway had trouble recording his lines due to then undisclosed health issues. Ultimately, these health problems led to his retirement from acting in 2016. 2 years later, he was diagnosed with dementia caused by a condition known as normal pressure hydrocephalus. This condition, often abbreviated as NPH, is characterized by an accumulation of cerebrospinal fluid that can lead to gait disturbances, urinary incontinence, and cognitive decline. Though treatable in some cases, especially if diagnosed early, it can be challenging to manage, and for Conway, it was a major turning point that would shape the remainder of his life. Final days. On May 14, 2019, complications from this condition led to his death at the age of 85. It's been 6 or so years since Conway's passing, but we're still learning unsettling details of his last couple of years alive. Conway's daughter has come out and revealed how her comedian father's final days were no laughing matter. Join us as we see what Conway's daughter had to share about this troubling chapter and how it adversely affected everyone in Tim's inner circle. Early life and early career. Thomas Daniel Tim Conway was born on the 15th of December 1933 in Willoughby, Ohio. He grew up in the nearby town of Chagrin Falls in Cuyahoga County. His father, Daniel, was a groomer for polo ponies, while his mother, Sophia, was a homemaker. This modest upbringing in the American Midwest introduced Conway to a more tranquil pace of life, and it also honed his ability to observe people closely, an essential skill for a future comedian. Conway majored in television and radio at Bowling Green State University in Bowling Green, Ohio. After graduating, he enlisted in the Army and served his country between 1956 and 1958. It was during these formative years, some friends recount, that Conway first started to see the world as fodder for his comedic imagination. The Army environment, with its strict hierarchy and daily routines, became an unlikely training ground for comedic material. After getting discharged from the Army, Conway found work at the Cleveland, Ohio, NBC affiliate station KYWTV. During that time, he got to work alongside famed television and radio personality Ernie Anderson. Conway got into comedy when he began writing and performing comedy routines between morning movies on CBS. In many ways, these interstitial bits can be seen as Conway's comedic proving ground. He often had very short time slots to fill, so he learned how to be succinct, punchy, and memorable, a skill that would serve him extraordinarily well in the realm of sketch comedy. He eventually was discovered by Rosemarie and became a regular guest on the Steve Allen Plymouth Show. In 1962, Conway earned true fame while starring as Ensign Charles Parker in McHale's Navy. He went on to seek further success in a series of shows that ended up failing, including 1969's short-lived Turn On. Embarrassingly, that series was given the axe after airing only one episode. It's said that the network didn't even want to bring the show back on after its first commercial break, reflecting just how unforgiving television executives could be during that era. As we mentioned in the intro, Conway went on to be given his own show, The Tim Conway Show, in 1970, but that series too was canceled after only 12 episodes. His biggest career success, however, had to be his many performances on The Carol Burnett Show, portraying characters such as Mr. Tudball and the Old Man. Although he's widely thought of as being a regular on the series, he actually only became a regular performer in 1975. Before that point, he was a frequent guest who would show up and steal scenes with his inventive comedic bits. Conway eventually shifted gears, appearing in several films, including 1975's The Apple Dumpling Gang, 1979's The Prizefighter, and 1980's The Private Eyes. In each of these, his comedic style lent itself beautifully to Disney or family-oriented comedy, warm, accessible, and unafraid to be silly. This was an era when comedic actors thrived on broad physical humor and G-rated slapstick, so Conway's near-infinite repertoire of goofy expressions and vocal quirks was truly in demand. Personal life, legal battles, and Kelly's memoir. Conway was married twice, first to Mary Ann Dalton from 1961 to 1978, and later to Charlene Fusco from 1984 until his death. Throughout those two marriages, Conway had 7 children. He and his first wife, Mary Ann Dalton, had 6 children. With his second wife, Charlene, Conway ended up becoming her daughter, Jacqueline's stepfather. Friends and acquaintances from this period often describe Conway as a dedicated father who delighted in sharing his sense of fun with his large family. When Conway passed away in 2019, Charlene didn't bother to call Tim's daughter Kelly to deliver the news. This snub came as no surprise to Kelly, as she had been battling Charlene in court over her father's conservatorship and his access to caregivers and doctors. Though such legal disputes are not uncommon in families dealing with dementia or similar degenerative conditions, the details shared by Kelly paint a particularly fraught picture of estrangement, mistrust, and heartbreak. Ultimately, even though it was established that Charlene had been treating Conway negligently, a judge ended up ruling against Kelly and mediation was implemented that allowed for her to have visitation rights. This heartbreaking ordeal was documented in Kelly's memoir, My Dad's Funnier Than Your Dad, Growing Up with Tim Conway in the Funniest House in America. The book details everything from Kelly's blissful childhood to the bitter dispute with Charlene over Conway's rapidly deteriorating health in his final days. Kelly told Page Six in 2021 that the battle with her stepmother was tragic because things could have easily played out very differently. Kelly insists that instead of all the drama and vitriol, her dealings with Charlene could have been substantially calmer. She says that before her dad became ill, she enjoyed a warm relationship with her stepmom. She had a deep love for her since she loved her father so much. He likewise loved her immensely, and they seemed so happy together. As such, Kelly didn't see anything wrong with their relationship. Kelly's relationship with Charlene, however, began to deteriorate over small things, like the type of food she would bring over when Tim first got sick. Kelly alleges that she used to visit her father and bring him things like sandwiches, but Charlene would always throw them in the garbage can because she wanted to be the one to make him food. While that might sound pretty petty, Kelly insists that things only escalated from there. Apparently, at some point, Charlene decided that after having a positive relationship with Kelly for over 3 decades, she was going to reverse course and do everything in her power to keep her from her husband and not let her be involved in his health care. Kelly has revealed that she hasn't spoken to Charlene since her father's funeral, and that even then she wasn't sure that she and her siblings were going to be invited to attend. The Conway siblings ended up throwing a reception after the funeral at a pizza joint that Tim always loved, not far from where they grew up. According to Kelly, that event ended up being better than the actual funeral since Charlene wasn't there to make everyone feel uncomfortable. Kelly now works as a hairstylist in LA. When asked why she decided to write her memoir, she explained that the number one question that she gets asked when people find out who her father was is what it was like to grow up in that household. In the book, she explains that she had a fantastic childhood because it was a bunch of fun and games. She even describes her upbringing as the best childhood ever. Kelly is fully aware that people are going to react to the contents of the memoir by accusing her of attempting to take control of her father's finances, but she insists that that was never the case. According to her, the only reason why she was seeking to gain control of the conservatorship was to help her father. She claims that her main goal was to let the doctors help him suffer less. In fact, she claims that when she sought to take conservatorship, she asked that no money pass through her hands and that all financial issues be taken care of through his accountants and lawyers. To this day, she swears that she wanted nothing to do with his money. One of Kelly's first goals was to have her father moved back home so that he could be in familiar surroundings and not have a new doctor poking and prodding at him every 20 minutes. She says that she wanted to keep his suffering to a minimum. If he was able to be at home, perhaps he would have been spared some of the complications and heartbreak of what he was going through. Regardless, that never happened, and Kelly says she still doesn't understand why. Aftermath and tributes. Following his death, numerous stars and actors paid tribute to Conway, including Dick Van Dyke, Ben Stiller, Ed Asner, Patton Oswalt, Judd Apatow, Larry King, and Conan O'Brien, just to name a few. Conway's longtime close friend Bob Newhart put out a heartfelt statement saying that the world lost one of the greatest comedians and that he and his wife will miss him greatly. Carol Burnett likewise released a statement saying how heartbroken she was to hear of Conway's passing. She went on to say that he would be in her heart forever. While the entertainment world came out in full force to express their condolences following Conway's death, nothing compares to the grief experienced by his children and wife. Charlene and Kelly might not see things eye to eye, and their relationship may never recover, but there is no questioning whether or not they both deeply loved Tim. On that note, we'll go ahead and wrap things up, but before you move on to watching another one of our fact-packed videos, take a moment to share your thoughts on Tim Conway's life, career, and tragic death. So far, we have walked through the original content, ensuring that none of Conway's essential details have been excluded. However, in the spirit of crafting a more expansive narrative, let's delve deeper into some historical context and additional details surrounding his life and career that closely tie in with what has already been presented. These details illuminate not only Tim Conway's genius, but also the cultural environment that shaped his comedic approach. During the 1960s, the variety show format was a staple of American television. Shows like The Ed Sullivan Show, The Dean Martin Show, and of course The Carol Burnett Show were prime venues for comedians and entertainers to display a wide range of talents in short sketches. Conway's success in this format can be partly attributed to his experience in local TV, where he had to rapidly switch between different comedic personas. Sketch comedy, by its nature, demands tight pacing and a knack for physical humor, two skills that Conway possessed in abundance. Outside of television, Conway's stage presence was equally captivating. He made frequent appearances on game shows, talk shows, and even roasts, where his wit could adapt seamlessly to live or semi-improvised formats. In interviews, Conan O'Brien once recounted how starstruck he was when meeting Conway, emphasizing that seeing him on the Carol Burnett Show was a formative experience in appreciating comedic craft. Similarly, talk show host Larry King mentioned on multiple occasions that Conway's brand of humor was pure, drawing from old-fashioned vaudevillian traditions while simultaneously feeling modern and accessible. The final chapter of Conway's life, as relayed in Kelly's memoir and public interviews, is a sobering counterpoint to the comedic joy he dispensed throughout his career. The legal battles over conservatorship underscore the complexities that arise when a beloved figure loses the capacity to make decisions for themselves. While such disputes can happen in any family, the public nature of Conway's fame magnified the conflict. Media outlets reported on the disagreements, fueling speculation and commentary on social media. Some fans were devastated to learn that a man who brought so much joy might have spent his final days ensnared in legal strife. Reading Kelly's descriptions, it is clear that she views her father as having been trapped by circumstances. She implies that if not for the interference she ascribes to Charlene, the entire family might have navigated Conway's declining health in a more loving, unified way. Of course, in legal disputes, there are always multiple perspectives. Charlene could have her own reasons for the decision she made, but the public record skews toward Kelly's testimony. What remains undisputed is that Conway himself had to endure a whirlwind of conflicting caregiving strategies, court orders, and stress. Despite these troubling revelations, Conway's legacy remains largely untarnished in the eyes of his fans. The comedic gifts he shared for decades stand as a testament to his artistry and genial spirit. After his passing, the tributes from colleagues and admirers were heartfelt. Carol Burnett's statement in particular illustrates that genuine affection existed behind the scenes, transcending the typical showbiz camaraderie. Bob Newhart's heartfelt remarks underline the sense that among comedic peers, Conway was seen as a titan, someone whose contributions helped define the art of TV comedy for generations. Fans from all around the world, some who grew up watching him in the 1960s, some who discovered him in Disney films, and even children who only recognized his voice as Barnacle Boy, mourned the loss of a comedic genius. In an era where entertainment icons often cultivate a larger-than-life persona, Conway stayed grounded and approachable. His comedic style was rarely mean-spirited, and he seldom resorted to edgy or controversial topics, preferring broad physical gags, whimsical characters, and playful one-liners. When it comes to understanding how such a warm, affable presence could find himself in the middle of familial legal skirmishes toward the end of his life, many have commented on the tragedy that dementia and similar conditions can bring out the worst in even the most loving families. Health declines can exacerbate old tensions or spark new ones, especially when significant decisions about care and finances must be made. In Conway's situation, Kelly's memoir and public statements point to a father who was, to her knowledge, not being given the dignified or optimal care he deserved. Charlene, on the other hand, had a legal position as power of attorney. This collision of good intentions, if we assume both parties believed they were acting in Conway's best interest, led to the painful scenario that overshadowed Conway's final chapter. As fans or observers, it's easy to wonder, could Conway's final months have been better if medical interventions had occurred earlier or if family unity had been preserved? Unfortunately, hindsight often reveals itself too late. Kelly's frustration largely stems from the belief that her father might have received more consistent care if the family had remained united. But as with many such disputes, the full story may be more complicated than what has been publicly revealed. Nevertheless, Conway's life story is overwhelmingly one of laughter and kindness. He spent the majority of his time on earth making others smile. The heartbreak at the very end should not overshadow the decades of joy he provided. One might view it as a testament to the complexity of life. Even those whose primary gift is humor are not immune to sorrow, legal battles, or the tribulations that can accompany old age. Since his passing, many fans have found solace in watching clips of his iconic sketches online. The digital age ensures that a new generation can discover his comedic brilliance instantly. Social media platforms are filled with tributes, memes, and nostalgic posts featuring Conway's highlights, from the dentist sketch to Dorf's mishaps on the golf course. Each post, each share, is like a small way of keeping his memory alive, ensuring that Tim Conway continues to make people laugh even after his final curtain call. Reflecting on his legacy, it's also worth mentioning how some comedic performers come off differently once the cameras stop rolling. But Conway, by all accounts, possessed a near-constant comedic energy. This sincerity likely endeared him to fans even more. Of course, no one is perfect, and had he lived longer, perhaps more stories or complexities would have emerged. But the general consensus is that his genuine warmth mirrored the sunny, family-friendly vibe of his comedic persona. Hopefully, by shining a spotlight on these final disputes, we can learn about the importance of communication and unity in families facing the challenges of dementia and other debilitating conditions. Conway's story, with all its ups and downs, stands as a testament to both the fragility of life and the power of laughter to transcend difficult times. It is a reminder that behind every icon, there is a human being susceptible to the same vulnerabilities and familial heartbreaks as anyone else. Yet, in the grand scheme, Tim Conway's memory endures as one of laughter, warmth, and a type of comedy that feels timeless. Whether you are experiencing his work for the first time or revisiting old favorites, it's hard not to smile when you see the glimmer in his eyes, the slow burn of his comedic pacing, and the playful spirit that seemed to say, "Life is short. Let's have some fun." That might just be the most fitting epitaph for a man who spent his life making others laugh. If you found this deep dive into Tim Conway's career and final days insightful, you might want to share your favorite Tim Conway moments in the comments or reflect on why his brand of comedy continues to resonate with fans young and old. Did you grow up watching him on the Carol Burnett Show, or did you discover him through SpongeBob SquarePants? Have you ever rewatched The Apple Dumpling Gang and found yourself laughing as if it were the first time? That enduring capacity for laughter is precisely why, even after all this time, Tim Conway's comedic legacy continues to shine bright. And so, we conclude this extensive exploration, remembering a man who managed to make people feel happy, comforted, and amused across multiple decades and platforms. The heartbreak of his final days, shared by his daughter Kelly and amplified by the media, shouldn't overshadow the lifetime of joy he provided. Instead, it can serve as a solemn reminder of the fragility of life, offering us all a chance to appreciate the comedic gifts he left behind. Tim Conway may no longer be with us, but the sound of his humor echoes on, a testament to a life well lived, even if it ended far more turbulently than anyone would have wanted.